Feel Your Forgiveness took a long time to write. Probably the longest song that I've ever worked on, partly because the truth that I'm singing about is something that I learned when I was really young, but it's taken this long to actually put it into words and for it to mean something in my own heart. You see, the idea of this song came from this moment when I was back in high school. I had a guitar in my lap, I had my Bible open in front of me, and I was sitting cross-legged on the floor, spending this time with Jesus like I did almost every single day. And that was the day when Jesus kind of showed up. It wasn't an audible word. It wasn't this overwhelming feeling in my heart. It was just a truth laid right there in front of me that we're free. And we're free because we're forgiven. And if we're forgiven, and the God of the universe says that we're forgiven, that means there is nothing that can take that forgiveness away from us. And so from that day forward, I remember there being a change in my life. I remember youth pastors coming up and asking me, well, how long have you been following Jesus? It feels like this is really new to you. I'm like, I grew up in the church, but I'm telling you, it feels new to me because I feel alive. But with time, as I grew older and as the list of all the things that I've ever done wrong in my life grew larger and larger, it really started to weigh me down. And shame started to creep in, fear started to creep in, because every time I got afraid, I'd start to become embarrassed. And I'd become embarrassed to try new things. This is the crazy way that shame works. It trips us up because it makes us afraid to even take the next step. And I became really afraid. Driven by fear, I stopped trying new things. I kind of hid myself away. I started not making new friends. I was afraid to try anything. And then in those quiet moments, Jesus started to remind me that I'm free and that I can live in that forgiveness. So I started this practice with him where I'd wake up early in the morning and say, Jesus, how do you see me? And what do you think of me? And now I did this because I knew that if I used my own imagination just to imagine who I was, all that came to mind were all the things I've ever done wrong. And those past failures, it seemed to always predict future failures in my own life. But those were never the things that Jesus brought up. Sure, there's a little bit of conviction that he'd bring up once in a while, but it was never condemnation. It was always like a way out. It was a way to live new. So as I began to ask him, how do you see me? Well, then he'd remind me that I'm his child, that I'm free from sin. And then I began to feel it. And what I've seen over the last few years is that I get to feel this forgiveness each and every day. It's like a new set of lenses have been put on my eyes that I get to see the opportunity to live life and live life to the full. And this forgiveness washes over me again and again. Obviously, I make mistakes just like you every single day, but those mistakes are met with grace. And as I step into this life with him, a deeper life that he continues to call me into, oh gosh, God keeps showing up with more and more grace, which makes each day more and more exciting to live. Feel Your Forgiveness took a long time to write, but I expect that it's going to take the rest of my life to actually live out. You are free because he says so. And if you're free and if you're forgiven, then you too get to live life and life to the full. And that's the story behind Feel Your Forgiveness.